what we've also seen are a lot of startups obviously suffering. If you saw over the weekend, Zomato coming out with a number of laying off nearly 500 people. Today, it was the turn of Swiggy that has announced in a town hall, in a very emotional town hall, I might add, with co-founder announcing that 1,100 employees would be laid off, that they have no choice but to downsize. They have tried to give benefits. Everyone's going to get a 3-month notice, and for every year spent at Swiggy, it's also going to mean that that 1 month of a severance package. So that's what's happening in the startup universe. Bad news, ladies and gentlemen. But there are many who are also fighting back. They're behaving like the COVID heroes, the warriors, to make sure that you and I can rest comfortably in our homes, that we can work from home, that we can have our children continue to study from the safety of our homes. And one of those such companies is Urban Company, formerly called Urban Clap. And joining me now is the co-founder. Thanks a lot, Abhiraj, for joining us here on Startup Central. First of all, hope you and everyone at Urban Company is indeed safe, healthy, and of course practicing social distancing. You provide services which many will say are essential. We're almost at 40 degrees in North India. If an AC were to break down, it's going to mean disaster, and they will want to be able to call an AC repairman. Similar for if my fridge breaks down. I want to first begin by asking you, it's lockdown 4.0. What has it meant for Urban Company? How have you grappled through it?
Thank you so much, Nayantara, for having me. I think, all of us have seen in the last 8 weeks, both the fact that this is a deadly virus which is here to stay, and the fact that this is going to be a long battle ahead. And therefore, our response as a society, as an economy, has to be graded. So we've seen that graded response in case of Urban Company. In the first lockdown, none of our services were allowed to operate. In the second lockdown, only the very, very essential services like plumbers and electricians were allowed to operate. In the third lockdown, there was a lot more relaxation. And now going forward in lockdown 4, at least the government's view is that almost all services, including beauty and haircuts at home, can start except for containment zones. Now, while the government is playing that balancing act of, livelihood along with lives, the imperative, in my opinion, is up to us as companies to see how we can go out there and put all the safety protocols, all the hygiene practices, so that we can minimize the risk of the disease spread. I don't think we exist in a world anymore where there is zero risk. I don't think there's anything called zero risk anymore. But I think it's the duty of companies like Urban Company to put safety protocols which can minimize this risk, as well as go out there and talk about them to consumers, because that's when consumers will, over a period of time, regain confidence and slowly start using the businesses that they have always loved. It's not going to be fast and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a slow road of recovery for all of us. But the right thing to do here is to be patient, and to put safety and hygiene over and above everything else in this environment.
So Abhiraj, yes, lockdown 4.0 is obviously very, very different from lockdown 1 and of course lockdown 2.0. So why don't you first begin by telling us that what are the services that you are providing in how many cities, and then I'm going to of course ask you that how you're following safety measures.
Sure. So at this point of time, we are present in 18 cities in India. And we have two large types of services, or two large business units within the company, Nayantara. The first is our home repair and maintenance business unit. This has all services like electricians, plumbers, carpenters, AC repair mechanics, refrigerator repair mechanics. We've just launched a cleaning and disinfection service. And all of these services are live across all the cities that we operate in. These have been allowed to go live in lockdown 4. In fact, they have been operational since lockdown 2 and lockdown 3. As far as the second vertical of our company is concerned, which is beauty and wellness, which includes haircuts at home, beauty treatments for men and women, massages and spas. These have been allowed to now operate across many, many cities, but not all of them. For example, in Mumbai, they still remain shut. In Pune, they still remain shut. In Chennai, they still remain shut, etc., etc. But it has been a significant, I would say, further relaxation compared to lockdown 3, where these were shut all over the country.
But how do you make sure that your staff is indeed safe? Because there's a lot that's riding on it. You can't possibly have guarantee that in all these 18 cities, for all those who are representatives of urban company have been tested, they could be asymptomatic. I mean, I'm sure you're paranoid about this. What are you doing about it?
That's a great question, Nayantara. We internally have put in place 8 safety protocols as part of this larger program that we call Program Kavach. And I'll very quickly walk you through what these 8 are. The first and most important is distribution of PPE or personal protective equipment. This for us includes masks, gloves, eye protection, sanitizers, and in many services coverall suits as well. Our SOP requires the change of masks and gloves with every single service. We have already distributed more than 1 million masks and gloves to our 25,000 service partners. And in just PPE alone, we expect to make an investment of anywhere between 20 to 25 crores through the course of 2020. So that's the first and probably the most important cornerstone. The second is daily temperature checks. We are getting all our service partners to do daily temperature checks. And in case they have something even as simple as a common cold, they now know that they have a sick leave program, which is the first of its kind for the gig economy globally, where they can just call into our helplines and let us know that they have a common cold, and then they'll be asked to stay at home and they'll be paid to stay at home. And if they need to be diagnosed by a doctor and COVID tested, then we organize that as well. And then there's a COVID insurance at the back end that we have for them. So that's the second, which is around daily temperature testing. The third and the fourth is really around ensuring that wherever possible, the services are delivered in a contactless fashion. And in beauty services, where there is some kind of a contact, all the necessary hygiene protocols are maintained. We are only using disposables and single-use sachets, and all the tools are sort of sanitized before and after the service. To that effect, every single service professional on the platform has gone through a mandatory 7-day training program on WHO hygiene guidelines, and without completing this program, they are not allowed to resume services on the platform. Another important thing that we've put in place is called geofencing of containment zones. That's a language now that we all understand. Containment zones are the zones where the disease spread is the maximum, and these are the most risky zones. Every day, the moment the government of India updates its containment zones, it takes us less than 15 minutes to update it on our app. Our technology geofences these so that there is no service professional who can enter a containment zone, and no service professional inside a containment zone can deliver services outside. And that's a pretty important thing in our opinion. The other thing we've done is that we have asked all our service professionals and encouraged them to use the Arogya Setu app, and we are using that quite extensively to ensure that they're all safe. There are a whole bunch of other safety protocols beyond these as well that we have put in place. But I think the larger point that I'm trying to make, Nayantara, is that whatever is in our hands and in our control, as a company, we are leaving absolutely no stone unturned. In this financial year, we will end up investing multiple tens of crores into safety and hygiene, and we think that that's the right thing to do as a brand and for the long-term trust that we need to develop with our consumers. That said, I completely agree with you that there is this is at the end of the day a highly transmissible, communicable disease. And despite the best safety protocols, none of us can claim that we're 100% safe. So we're also asking the consumers to follow the necessary safety guidelines at their end, to wear a mask, to continue to maintain social distancing if they have to get the service, and in case it's a beauty treatment, to ensure that they are following all the necessary safety precautions as well.
But I want to ask you this one question. Like I said, one has to be paranoid about it, right? Like in New Delhi, we heard about what happened with the pizza delivery boy and how it spread and the ramifications it had. It's a brand that you built from scratch. It's your baby. March 31st of this year, you close with revenues of what, like 918 crores. So having said that, while you're paranoid about it, do you think you could have been maybe more discerning with the services you're providing? And I'm asking this on behalf of a lot of people who will be wondering about this. I mean, yeah, I'm a woman and I'm saying this. I'm a lady who's saying this, that do I really have to be vain about haircuts or dyeing my hair at this moment and things like that? Why not perhaps focus more on the essential services that people will struggle to do without, like if your fridge breaks down or if your gas stove breaks down or if your AC breaks down?
No, that's a very good question, Nayantara, and I think it's at the heart of this pandemic and the larger question that us as society is asking ourselves, right? Look, if this pandemic was to get over, if we all knew that there was an end date to it, which is 4 weeks later or 8 weeks later or even 12 weeks later, many of us could have made that decision and made that choice. But there is no end in sight for this. This could very well be 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, we don't know. And while all of us have to be paranoid about lives, as the Prime Minister rightly said, it is also a balancing act with livelihood. It is true that on the urban company platform, like in the larger economy, there are a lot of people in the beauty space whose livelihood depends upon making ends meet and providing these services. We also as a platform think that if we decide not to provide some of these other services, let's say we decided not to provide haircuts at home at all, will that mean that consumers will completely stop availing haircuts? Unlikely. It is actually more likely that then they will resort to options which are out there, which are less safer, which are more in the grey market, where all of these protocols don't exist. So this was a deep internal discussion and debate that we had internally. Many of us were on either sides of it. When to resume, how much to resume, what services to offer. And eventually as a company, we arrived at two conclusive points. A, we will follow the government's guidelines. Wherever the government allows us to operate, we will operate, and wherever it doesn't, we will not. And B, if the government allows us to operate, it is almost our responsibility to go out there and offer the safest possible platform. It may not be 100% safe, but it is significantly safer than any other option that you might have, because in the absence of such a platform, it is not that consumers will stop availing these services. They will, but they will resort to less safer options.
I think maybe I should give it a try. I haven't got a haircut in quite a while. My studio director Akshay was just scolding me, saying your hair's looking so messy and it's all tangled up, but what you got to do, can't do much about it. Maybe I should try it out. But Abhiraj, the other thing I want to ask you is that are people paranoid about getting your staff, getting the urban company representatives home for whatever reasons they are? Do they ask all kind of questions? You've also seen a situation where the RWAs, for example, seem to have become so powerful. So has that been a challenge? Because each RWA seems to be operating with different rules.
I think some of these are going to be ongoing challenges, and look, I see them less as challenges and I see them more as legitimate concerns that our consumers have, our potential consumers have, as RWA societies have. We're at the end of the day dealing with an invisible virus which has got the entire world on its knees. None of us know the end date, and everybody is from their vantage point trying to do what's the right thing. I think what we have done and what we focus on is what is in our control, which is to put the necessary safety protocols in place and then to talk about it. We've seen many RWAs who have actually gone ahead and asked their residents to use urban company if they must use a service professional because there are these safety protocols in place. And at the same time, we've seen other RWAs who have not allowed our service professionals to enter, and that's also fine. As I mentioned in the beginning of this conversation, I think that this is going to be a long road to recovery. It's not going to be quick. Many months and potentially quarters. All of us will have to be patient. It will take time for consumers, RWAs, and the society at large to regain confidence in the businesses they love. And as technology entrepreneurs and business owners, what we have to do is we have to do the right thing by focusing on safety, by focusing on hygiene, by doing whatever is in our control, and then talking about it and being patient.
Okay, and tell me something. I started this interview by talking about all the troubles that a lot of startups are having. I don't know how insulated you are, protected you are, what you've done on the front. I thought I'll just ask you. We've seen what Zomato's done, what Swiggy's done, what Uran has done, and everybody's having to do this with a very heavy hand on their heart, and literally they have no choice. What has that ride been for Urban Company? Have you had to maybe tell your representative, how does it work, the business model? Like, do you only take a cut or whatever it is when they get a booking? Have you had to downsize at all?
No, it's a very good question, and I can talk about what we've been doing at Urban Company, and we have two large constituents. We have our employees. We have 1,300 of them, full-time employees who are on our payroll, and then we have an extended family of close to 27,000 service professionals whose livelihood depends upon this platform across 22 cities globally. Let me talk about the latter because that's the group that has been most impacted in this lockdown. We were amongst probably the first companies to quickly announce several monetary packages for this group. We sanctioned a loan program worth 11 crores, which was 0% interest loans with significantly delayed moratorium periods, allowing partners to have liquidity to get through the lockdown. We also reimbursed 6.5 crores worth of future revenues back into the pockets of the partners. We put in place a relief fund worth 1.5 crores to help the most impacted partners. And we made, lots of other monetary investments. All of them combined, it was sort of since the lockdown started, our sort of total monetary help for these 27,000 partners has been to the tune of about 20 crores, which is roughly 10% of our annual revenue. So while the 900 crore figure that you mentioned was the total sales on the platform, our commission, which is about 20%, is what is our revenue. So 10% of the previous year's revenue has already gone in, and we're committed to doing more throughout the year because we recognize that the pandemic is long. We've put in place a COVID-19 health insurance and income protection plan free of cost for all the service partners. This is now extended till July of 2021. If any partner God forbid, gets COVID-19, he or she gets both hospitalization covered as well as lost income covered. So a bunch of such programs have been put in place for our service partners. Similarly, for our employees, we've done a whole bunch of things. We took a decision as a company not to renege on any offer that we've made to new joiners. And since March, more than 100 people have joined the company. We've also ensured that there have been no salary cuts, no layoffs, etc., etc. I think we were able to take some of these measures both for our employees as well as for our extended family of service professionals, in part because of our strong balance sheet. And I don't think there is any value judgment here. Every business is trying to do what's the right thing for them. Businesses are trying to optimize here and trying to ensure that they're taking care of all stakeholders. I think the road ahead is going to be tough. I don't think any of us, including Urban Company, is completely insulated. I think all of us will try to do the best we can. And all of us are trying to honestly, be as humane as possible through this crisis.
So let me ask you one of my concluding questions, Abhiraj, because if anybody were to go through your social media, one can actually see how you've tried to reinvent. You've been very vociferous about it. You've been, you've shown how your representatives are going to enter homes, what they're going to look like, the PP kits, how they're going to sanitize, how they come prepared, hygiene, all of that. So I take that point. So let me make this my last question to you. You ended the last financial year with a booking value of a whopping 900 crore rupee plus. Then came along, the black swan of the year, COVID-19. And in at the start of lockdown 4, how has it been? How has the response been? You've been very proactive in making sure that your representatives are as safe and hygiene as you can possibly make sure. But have people been receptive? Have you seen maybe bookings picking up every day or third day? I'm sure there's a lot in this also to do with word of mouth.
Yes, so I can talk about our home repairs and maintenance service businesses, which has been largely live so far. That is almost now back to its pre-COVID levels, and in fact, that's one area where we're now constrained by service professionals, and we're actually onboarding new service professionals. Um, the reason I think is, earlier the choice was, let's say, between urban company and somebody from the local market. A lot of the consumers who still have to get their ACs repaired, still have to get that plumbing job done, still need to get that refrigerator repair, are saying, hey, as opposed to trying to save a quick buck, can I opt in for urban company, and at least there's some guarantee out there. So I think that's what we've seen on the home side. On the beauty side, too early to tell. What I can tell you is that we launched a wait list for consumers who want to avail the service once the lockdown is lifted. And as of today, that wait list has 120,000 customers who've signed up.
120,000 people are waiting for your services.
For the beauty service, yes. These are who have
Oh
come
man,
and
I really
proactively.
should then. I've got white hair, my hair needs a haircut. I think I should be a part of that wait list. I can't believe I'm admitting this on national television, but Abhiraj, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time out and being so candid and patient with us. Thanks a lot, and wish you and everyone at Urban Company all the very best.
Thank you so much, Nayantara, for having me. Thank you so much.